I just saw a movie I wanted to point more people to, and it wasn't Snake Eyes. It's Riders of Justice.
Vil I ikke sidde her?
Mange tak.
I know I got a lot of negative space over here, but you know, it's perfect breeding grounds for, you know, stuff or things or whatever little morsels or details I just want to slap over here. It's perfect. Look at all this room for items. Anyway, the movie I wanted to talk about is Riders of Justice. It's a movie I just saw. I've been mildly interested. Hold on. Oh, tiny little pops. It's a movie I've been minorly interested in for a while now. I saw the director's previous movie, Men and Chicken, which was very weird.
Undskyld, men er det bare for at fortælle mig om dine problemer, du gerne vil med?
Så skulle jeg specifikt netdate cykelterapeut, der får os bare 875 kroner i timen. Du som det er fuldstændig vanvittigt at spørge om. Men jeg var lov til at fortsætte sig, uden at afbryde sig. Afbryde og kørselsbrugere, altid så meget.
But I wanted to see this not only because of who was in it, Mads Mikkelsen, but it just looked generally like a fun movie with a revenge-type premise. You know, Taken-esque. Not nobody got kidnapped, but revenge story. And I was shocked and blown away by how much fun I had with this movie. Not only is it a really entertaining action movie, but it is an genuinely really well-made, fun, enjoyable, and at times funny and light-hearted movie.
Ja, for rockergruppen Riders of Justice. Hvor mange medlemmer de har. Hvad er de straffet for? Hvad er de mistænkt for? Navne, adresser? Er det noget, I kan, uden at ligge spor?
Vi har fattet det nemmeste for dig i verden.
Det er det nemmeste for mig i verden.
It juggles all of these tones and all of these characters flawlessly. I can't believe a movie with this many characters are all interesting. All of these characters are interesting and all of them are important to some degree, which was great. It was honestly refreshing to watch a movie that was not only a hardcore, bloody, violent action movie that also had legitimately poignant character moments. It's generally a movie about trauma, about grief, about dealing with that. It reminded me of a lot of 2 or 3 movies. One was Pig, which I just recently saw, which is also kind of a movie about grief and kind of nihilistic. And it has some parallels with this in that way. That movie's about the loss of someone you love and the lengths you'll go to get that person back or to try to avoid dealing with that grief. And that is exactly what this movie is too. The main character is Mads Mikkelsen. He's one of the main characters, I should say. And his wife gets murdered in a train accident. And when some people come along and say they don't think it was an accident, he makes it his mission, his goal. He's an army man, so it's his mission to find the man who's responsible for this accident. So he can kind of avoid dealing with his wife's death and his detachment with his daughter. So there's that going on, and it has that kind of, and that's where the revenge story comes in, but it has that kind of dealing with grief or trying to avoid grief. And it also has a similar nihilism to it that Pig does. Pig was all about finding something you love before you inevitably die. It's kind of bittersweet in that way. It's dealing with this tragedy and coming to terms with the fact that that tragedy is just part of life.
Jeg var med samme tog som din kone og datter.
Hvad ved?
Jeg synes, du har krav på at vide, at det ikke var en ulykke.
There's a moment very early on, I think it's the first scene in the movie actually, when some guy and some girl want a bike. And there's a red bike at the shop, but the girl wants a blue one. So a guy makes a call, a blue bike gets stolen, and the very last scene in the movie, a perfect wraparound, shows that guy and that girl giving that bike, a blue bike, to that girl. Now, this would be completely unconnected to anything, and it would be completely coincidental, to everything. But it directly correlates to the plot because that's sort of the kickoff to this series of events that led to this girl, the daughter of Mads Mikkelsen, and her mom being on the train where she gets killed. If she had her bike, she could use it to go to school. And she didn't, because it got stolen and then re-gifted to somebody else. And those two things are completely unrelated. A person dying and the bike being given to somebody else. But they are also perfectly connected. It's this wonderful little thing it's playing with, this movie. Coincidence, happenstance, purpose, meaning.
Ikke afstumpet, Mathilde. Men du er tyk. Ja, du er en lille tyk spejlpølse.
That's something I did like. Every character seems to have some specific grief or trauma they're dealing with, because that's just life. Everybody's dealing with something, and whether you like it or not, somebody that you know is probably dealing with something that they're not telling you about, because they don't know how to deal with it, or they are dealing with it without involving people, and that's something else that this is kind of going with. There's plenty of these people in this movie that have past trauma. Some of it is shown in this movie. Some of it is talked about or implied. And every single character, because they're hurt in some way, had these moments where they all managed to come together, whether that's happenstance or if it's purposeful because all of them have trauma. It doesn't really matter. The fact is they all came together and they formed this little bond, almost like a Dom Toretto family of sorts, where every single character has some ailment, some affliction, some trauma, some grief, but they all form this cohesive whole that is so intoxicating. I loved watching just these characters talk to each other. They're so well-rounded, they're so well-written, they all have distinct personalities, they all interact with each other in distinct ways. It was wonderful!
Hvis du kunne hacke os ind i Fitness World server, så ville der være en mulighed.
Fitness World. Fitnesskæde.
Nej, stenhuggeriet, Lennart.
Du skal tale pænt til mig, ellers så gider jeg ikke hjælpe.
One of the last scenes of the movie is just them at Christmas opening presents, and it's like my favorite scene in the movie. It was amazing to watch these characters just gift a present to somebody and then watch that person use that present. It was great. I loved that. I think that every person from every walk of life could love this movie because A, it's a well-made movie. So anybody that likes movies, that wants to go into movies, that loves watching a gorgeous-looking movie, they can like this because it is a gorgeous movie. It's incredibly well made. Anybody that loves just watching actors will love this movie. Every actor in this is perfect for their role, and anybody that wants to go into this relating to a character will love this. Anybody that wants to watch a violent action movie will love this. It's got everything. It's got everything. There is a twist near the end that caught me off guard because it threw into question the morality of everything that was happening in the movie, which is another thing that it kind of plays with. Morality, ethics, is this okay? And that's the third movie it reminded me of, was I Saw the Devil. I Saw the Devil is a wonderful revenge movie about an agent in South Korea. I wanted to say FBI, but it's not FBI. I guess it's similar, but I believe it's his wife or his daughter. I don't remember. I think it's his fiance. I think it's his fiance. I think his fiance gets murdered by a serial killer, and he goes to crazy lengths to make the serial killer suffer. Anytime he follows the serial killer around, and anytime he's about to kill somebody, he bursts in and beats him to a pulp, but lets him live just so he can suffer. And that movie is 2.5 hours of that. And that's kind of what this movie is as well. Because I Saw the Devil is 2.5 hours of moral ambiguity. This guy is beating up a serial killer relentlessly. And at the end, he does a shocking and an appalling thing that I won't spoil. And it throws into question whether or not what he's doing is morally right or wrong. He's doing this to a serial killer, somebody who butchers people basically for a living. So, is him relentlessly attacking, assaulting, beating a man near to death right or wrong? That's the question this movie leaves you with.
Hvad vil du bruge det til?
Jeg vil hævne min kone. Har du slået nogen ihjel før? Lad os bare være stille, inden tak.
But it does call into question the main character's actions and all of their actions, whether or not this is right, whether or not what they're doing is moral. And the twist near the end is what calls into question everything they've done. And again, it's something I don't think is super well developed. This moral ambiguity, is this right, is this wrong? I don't think it focuses on it like I Saw the Devil does. That movie really drives that home, especially at the end. It makes you question just about everything. And this ending, it makes it seem like it was okay, which kind of defeats the purpose of questioning the morality of everything. But I don't know. Anyway, I really, really love this movie. I really enjoyed it. It has its issues. I mean, some of the stuff doesn't quite work for me. Again, some of the messages don't quite work for me. And a couple of sequences probably could have been cut down, trimmed, or thrown out entirely. It's a little long. The second act goes on for a little bit long. But I loved all of these characters. I loved listening to them talk to each other and bicker and argue. It was really, really fun. So, if that sounds interesting, go ahead, check it out. I enjoyed it. It's not out on Blu-ray yet, but the Blu-ray on Amazon looks terrible. This is the worst cover you can possibly imagine for this type of movie. It just makes it look like a dumb action movie. It's not a dumb action movie. Fix this cover, please.